You think what's holding you back is discipline or motivation or timing, but what if the real limitation isn't external at all? What if the problem is the version of you that you've been unconsciously protecting? Because before you act, before you decide, your brain already checks one thing. Is this who I am? Identity is not just a description. It's a filter. It decides what feels possible and what feels unrealistic. You don't see reality directly. You see it through the story you believe about yourself. And most of the time, that story was written years ago. You don't act according to your potential. You act according to your self-concept. If you believe you're inconsistent, your brain looks for proof. If you believe you're not confident, you'll notice every hesitation. This isn't weakness. It's neurological efficiency. Somewhere in your past, small moments became quiet conclusions. A failure turned into, I'm not good at this. A rejection became, I'm not enough. And over time, those conclusions stopped feeling temporary and started feeling like you. Once a belief forms, your brain protects it. There's a bias called confirmation bias. It filters information to keep your identity stable, not because it's accurate, but because stability feels safe. Your mind would rather be consistent than correct. You don't notice the opportunities you quietly avoid. You don't register the risks you decline, because your brain isn't asking, what's possible? It's asking, what fits the version of me I already believe in? The brain is predictive. Before you consciously decide, it simulates outcomes. It calculates based on your past behavior and your established identity, and then it nudges you toward what feels familiar. Familiar doesn't mean optimal, it means known. The brain is predictive. Before you consciously decide, it simulates outcomes. It calculates based on your past behavior and your established identity, and then it nudges you toward what feels familiar. Familiar doesn't mean optimal, it means known. The amygdala, your threat detection system, doesn't only react to real danger, it reacts to unpredictability. Becoming someone new is unpredictable, so your body tightens, your focus narrows, and hesitation feels justified. Familiar struggle feels strangely safe because it's predictable. Predictability calms the nervous system, even if that predictability keeps you small. Even if it keeps you repeating the same cycles, your brain prioritizes stability over expansion. You are not lazy. Laziness is often alignment with a limited self-concept. If you believe you are inconsistent, your behavior will confirm it. Not intentionally, not consciously, but because the brain seeks coherence. It would rather act consistently with who you believe you are than contradict your internal narrative. Identity is built through repetition. Every action you repeat strengthens neural connections. Neurons that fire together wire together. Over time, behavior becomes automatic. And automatic behavior starts to feel like personality. What you repeatedly do becomes what you unconsciously defend. The small choices matter more than dramatic moments. Scrolling instead of starting, staying silent instead of speaking, waiting instead of acting. Each repetition whispers to the brain, this is who we are. And slowly, the whisper becomes a definition. But identity is not fixed. The brain remains plastic, adaptable. Neuroplasticity doesn't disappear. It responds to repetition. When behavior changes consistently, the neural model updates. The difficulty is not capability. It's sustaining actions long enough for the brain to believe this is the new normal. You try to change habits without changing identity. You attempt discipline while still believing you're undisciplined, and that creates friction. Because internally, you feel like you're pretending. The mind resists behaviors that don't align with its established self-image. When you behave differently, but still see yourself the same, the nervous system reacts. There's subtle tension, a feeling of inconsistency. The brain prefers coherence. It would rather keep you limited and stable than expanded and internally conflicted. Your brain runs a silent script. Before you decide, it predicts your reaction. It asks, "What would someone like me do?" And then it moves accordingly. This predictive system keeps life efficient, but it also keeps identity self-reinforcing. If your internal model says you avoid risk, your body generates hesitation before thought. Heart rate shifts, muscles tighten, not because you can't act, but because your brain has already predicted who you are. This is why willpower feels exhausting. You are overriding years of reinforced prediction. Effort fights identity, and effort fades. But identity persists until enough new evidence forces the brain to reconsider the model. Real change begins when you redefine what feels like you. Instead of asking, "How do I force this?" ask, "Who would I need to believe I am for this action to feel natural?" Small aligned actions reshape self-perception over time. Every time you act against your old script, you send corrective feedback to the brain. Neural pathways adjust through repetition. One action isn't enough, but consistent contradiction weakens the old identity and strengthens a new one. You don't shatter identity overnight. You outgrow it. Through calm repetition, through quiet persistence, the brain slowly updates its prediction model. What once felt unnatural begins to feel neutral, and neutral eventually feels normal. The moment you tolerate discomfort without retreating, you destabilize the old pattern. The moment you act despite doubt, the brain registers new data. And slowly, identity shifts from something rigid to something expandable. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What felt foreign becomes familiar. The nervous system recalibrates, and without dramatic realization, you begin behaving like someone new because the brain has updated its model. You were never trapped by circumstance. You were stabilized by a self-concept that went unquestioned. The limits you feel are often internal agreements formed years ago and quietly maintained through repetition. Your identity is not a fact. It is a reinforced pattern built through repetition, protected through prediction, and patterns can change. Not through force, not through intensity, but through awareness and consistent evidence that you are more adaptable than the story you've been repeating. Change rarely feels dramatic. It feels subtle, like a quiet shift in how you respond, how you think, how you interpret discomfort. The old identity doesn't disappear instantly. It fades through repetition, and one day, without announcement, you realize you're no longer protecting the version of yourself that once kept you small.